You guys, I am so excited about today's guest. Her name is Naya Rappaport. She is a yoga teacher, dancer, entrepreneur, social media influencer, and so much more. And it's so exciting because she is actually my yoga teacher, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet her if you don't know her already. Naya, welcome to Inner Beauty Code. Thank you so much for being here.
Me, Rachel. It is an absolute pleasure. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Tell us more about yourself if I forgot anything.
I think you covered great labels. That I would just say artist, creator, and just being. So I am beyond excited to be here to share a little bit more about myself, but also have a meaningful conversation with you. So thank you again for having me.
Wonderful. And talking about just being, Naya, if I could count on one hand the number of people that I think just completely embody their authenticity, you are definitely like, if not number one, close to the top. And maybe you don't see yourself this way, maybe you do, but this is how I see you. And that's one of the things I really love about you, that you just seem to embody your authenticity so well. So let's get into your journey, maybe arriving there. Were you always this way? Were you always like very in tune with yourself?
No, not at all. I didn't get to be so aware and in tune with myself until after high school. I feel like in high school I did have an awakening, or just I began to be more present in my actions and doings, but it wasn't really until I started to practice mindfulness and yoga and become more aware of all the actions that I take and how they have a ripple effect on those around me. And I know it seems like, wow, all this time you didn't recognize that, but it really does change when we begin to take such mindfulness and pausing and making each and every second a moment of being there now and having that type of presence and alertness in what you're completely doing. It's something that I didn't do before. It's something that if, for example, if I were having a conversation, my mind would be somewhere else in a way, or disassociation from the present moment or my body. And these things happen for many reasons, but that's my journey, how I was before. So I wasn't always so present or alert or there in the moment. And this started after the yoga practice, mindfulness, getting in tune with my body and practicing meditation and just learning more about the yogic philosophies and how my actions do matter. As I mentioned before, there was such a difference of who I was. And I still honor and appreciate that younger version of myself and all the versions of myself that weren't so great. And it was a building block for who I have become today. And I completely honor and recognize my shadow side. And right now, I would say I'm in a state of such inner joy, contentment, and just in a happy place in my personal life, while still recognizing the atrocities in the world in general. But knowing that I'm giving my best and doing what I can makes me feel like I am collaborating in this human experience. I hope that answered some of the question.
Yes, it did. And you know what? You spoke about being present and being joyful. Like when, I just spent a week with you in Lisbon last month, and just that I did notice that about you. Like you were very present. You radiate this kind of energy of joy, and even if things are stressful or you're surrounded by a lot of energies, I think that you do a really great job of still maintaining, who you are. And I really admire that about you. And you mentioned getting to this point. So you think, obviously, a lot of people know yoga and meditation is really helpful for being present and learning how to slow your mind down and be less reactive to outside influences. So, do you think that? I mean, I know you practiced yoga since you were a little girl. So, maybe can you kind of take us down this journey, because you own a yoga studio, you have a business online as well around your yoga practice. Can we kind of go through your journey with yoga? Because it was so meaningful to me being one of your students, and you are my favorite yoga teacher that I've taken yoga from. So I want to hear more about that experience for you.
Thank you. And yes, I'll share. At the age of 9, my mother took me to my first hot yoga class. And at that young age, I wasn't allowed to do the full sequencing. So I sat outside until they did their standing sequences. And after that, they invited me in for the floor series. And by that time, when I first walked in, it was very hot. It's a hot 26, formerly known as Bikram Yoga. And by that time, very hot, everyone is sweating. They're on the floor getting ready to do the sequences. And my favorite one was floor bow pose. And the teacher at that time, you could give hands-on assist in that Bikram class. So he held my ankles and he lifted me up from the floor. And I thought it was just so cool. And it was a great experience for me to have this challenging atmosphere of like being around adults. Also, the temperature is extremely hot while doing physical posture and trying to breathe and stay in the moment and be there. So that had an impact on me, and it sort of just stayed there. It's almost like reading, or yeah, it's like reading a book and putting a bookmark on there so it becomes a core memory, and then moving on a few chapters, because after that I got more involved with my schooling and academics and friendships and relationships and so forth, that I put yoga to the side. It wasn't something that I could, as a young person, my mom, she would go, but she didn't force it upon me. And it became something on the sideline. So I continued with school, going into, I lived in Dominican Republic for high school, and I went back and forth from Florida to Dominican Republic. And in Dominican Republic, being very, very religious, they don't have yoga studios. They actually just opened their first yoga studio just a few years ago. I would say maybe less than 5 years ago. And I believe they had to close it and make it more of like private classes for those that are interested. But going back to my journey on, being introduced at the age of 9, when I came here for college, I went to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, in which I have a bachelor's in photography. And it was then in 2012 where I began my Instagram. But before starting Instagram, because I mainly opened it for photography, I started to practice yoga. I remembered how I felt when I was 9 years old, and the community that it builds, and the strength and flexibility and just the joy that I felt at that time. And I was looking for something like that. I was looking for a way to help myself. And it was after a breakup in which I went crying to a class. And then I go to the class and the door was locked because I was 3 minutes late. So I was so upset, and I remember just crying in my vehicle, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it to the next class. So there began my discipline of being timely and just putting the effort into something that is meaningful to me and to what takes priority in my life, knowing that I'm not in a good headspace at that time, and creating the time to not sulk or melt or dive deeper into the depression that I was feeling, but instead going out and seeking for that help. And for me, it's something more physical. I've always liked to dance. I've always liked to express myself via journaling and an artistic way. So knowing that yoga has the physical aspect for me, I I wanted that. And I went towards the practice as a physical practice. With time, it developed in Shavasana where I would lay there and be like, wow, there's definitely something more to this than just doing all these postures and sweating profusely and detoxing. Fine, that's cool, but there's something more. And noticing the mental shift that would happen after each and every class. And you can also feel it after a workout, bit for and dance and all these things, because once you have that muscle contraction and the brain just secretes these happy hormones and so forth. But for the yoga practice, when you find a teacher that resonates with you, there's something very special that happens in which either their quotes or words or their sentiments or their heart just pours out in their teaching, and you feel that difference, and those words just speak to you on a much deeper level, and you feel the vibration throughout your body, in which is that beauty of yoga. I like to learn things, so I feel like some teachers can mix that really well together. And after 2012, that's what made me pursue the practice. And again, I mentioned how I went into the practice just for the physicality. And I went in with the sheer determination to be in the Bikram championship and compete, which is, I look back and I don't want to say that I laugh at that, because I think that there is a beauty in going through the competition. They still do it. It's absolutely a beautiful practice, and it's a great way to merge and connect with others that are as dedicated and have that profound love and experience for the practice. And it's a great networking opportunity, and there's a lot of beauty to that. I don't want to diminish that by no means. So that's not the goal here. But for me, that was my headspace at the time, until I became more curious on the roots of yoga. And one of my great friends, Salila Tui, she told me she was doing a training with Leslie Gligman, a 200-hour yoga teacher training, but it's in the completely different lineage that I didn't practice before. It was Vinyasa lineage. And practicing Bikram Hot 26, it's all standing, stamina. It's very different from the vinyasa practice. I went to the vinyasa practice with no upper body strength. I couldn't even do a tricep push-up. And doing a training in that lineage was a completely different trajectory, as I went into the training because I was influenced to have a deeper connection with my friend and do this experience and journey, take that with her. That was my main goal. And then I fell in love with Vinyasa, and I fell in love with Leslie and yoga journey in Boca and what Leslie had to offer. She is a incredible teacher, and I'm very inspired by her. And also at the time, she had Deborah Zambrano there and Julie Kagan and some other guest teacher, including Ray Long, in which I did my 200-hour training with her, 300-hour training. And I went on to dive deeper into spirituality, doing my training in Kundalini Yoga with Deva Kaur in Yoga Source here in, she had 2 locations here in South Florida. But that is my journey. And now I co-own a studio space with my 2 best friends. One from elementary school. Her name is Ashley. And the second is Salila Tui, who I did my first 200-hour teacher training with. And it's been such a beautiful experience. I also teach workshops and host the yoga teacher trainings myself with Salila Tui, as well as doing retreats, which you mentioned. We were just in Portugal together, and that was so much fun. It was an eclectic group of women from all ages. It's things like that that make me so joyful in doing what I do, seeing the radiance and happiness in others once they get to experience community, friendship, the practice that just makes it all worthwhile.
I love that. And I completely agree. And just having been through your 200-hour training, the people that were classmates of mine during the training, I just really had an amazing experience getting to know everyone and being able to bond over that experience and still keep in touch with a lot of them. So that is a great thing that I think that you guys have created too at Space, and that yoga just allows people to connect. And what I find really cool about your particular business is that you mentioned all three of you bring your own talents and your own strengths to the business to give a variety of experience for people. Like Twee does the she's a nurse and she provides that aspect of it, and you bring the creativity. I noticed a lot, and movement with your body I think is really cool. And then Ashley again too kind of does dancing. So I think that is Ashley, she does dancing, the glutes and grooves. So she was also a dancer as well, or?
Yeah, so Ashley came from a cheerleading background, a professional cheerleader.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. So that was an interesting place. And if you guys ever visit Delray, or if you live in the area, you have to go to Space Unknown and take a class with Naya and the other girls, because it's a really amazing experience. And I just felt really connected. And I love your Kundalini class. But talking about spirituality and learning more about the Eastern religion and practices, I know that you even take classes learning the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
Can you tell me more about that, and just the books that you had us read and learning more about that was really special. And I remember especially the namas and niyamas.
Yes.
I still they pop into my head every once in a while. I want to talk about just that aspect of you and your experience.
So diving into the yoga practice, it is absolutely for everyone. Yoga's for everyone in general. It's for all religions, all genders, ethnicities, sexes, everything. So everyone is able to practice yoga. Yoga is the technology of awareness, mindfulness, and presence. It is the union of mind, body, and soul, or mind, body, spirit, or mind, body, self, or that connection between your deepest core and all pervasive self. Diving deeper into the yoga, I really enjoy tapping into philosophy and mythology, because the asanas, the postures, do have a story behind them. Whether you wish to acknowledge that and dive deeper, that is a personal choice. You are still able to practice poses, and just know that they are physical postures in which have a lot of benefits to them. Now, again, like I mentioned, if you want to dive deeper into what that posture means, that is your choice, because then from there you will find that these poses have profound, long stories to them in which they are very meaningful. For me, I love, pardon if you hear my puppies in the background. For me, I absolutely enjoy learning more about this. So, because I enjoy the mythology, then I'll dive deeper into the lords and into the deities and gods. I consider myself to be spiritual and religious, so it's a mix of both. The beauty that I am able to have during this life experience, because no one can tell me, like, no, you must do this. It is my life, and everyone has that choice. And recognizing that you have that choice is powerful, because it's the way that you get to live. And as long as it makes you a compassionate, beautiful human being in which you're not harming anyone, or following these guides into being the best version of yourself, I just think that's beautiful. So going back into yoga philosophy and all that stuff, there are ancient Indian texts that have changed my life, as well as other books that truly have had a large impact on me. For example, Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements, and all the other books that he's written. Some science-based books like Hacking Darwin, Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker, and other books. I am an avid reader. But going back to ancient Indian texts, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, absolutely phenomenal. And the Bhagavad Gita, that's another one in which I've been studying for the past 4 years with my teachers, Dominic Napa and Swami G. Nikalananda Saraswati. And for the Yoga Sutras, it's something that we teach in the 200 hours with the commentary of Sri Satchidananda. So it's going to be the blue book in which he's on the cover. And there's other books with incredible commentaries by different scholars that have been able to translate the Sanskrit and make their own commentary of what the sutra means. So with that, it introduced me to the Eightfold Path, the 8 steps towards enlightenment or bliss or freedom. And within the Eightfold Path, recognizing that if we have 8 slices of a pie, and you take one slice, knowing that we're still missing the other slices, or there are other slices that are to be had, eaten, and they're left over. So making sure that we have a little bite off of each to get the full, complete experience, or trying to. That's the beauty of this life. We go step by step, and it's like climbing a ladder. You don't want to skip a step. There may be a fall. So you want to go very slowly, taking it step by step, making sure that you're climbing that ladder properly. So here we have these 8 slices, recognizing the asana, the posture, is just one of the slices. And then, like you mentioned, the yamas and niyamas, these are like the first 2 limbs of the practice. And I like to think of the yamas and niyamas as like guidance for when we are feeling lost, or guidance in general of how to be a human living with others, living in this society. And the yamas and niyamas are observances and restraints of how to live ethically and do the best that we can. Again, no one is perfect. As long as we are human, that we are bound to make mistakes. We are bound to say things that are offensive. We are bound to do things that aren't always our best. We are constantly accumulating that karma, things that may be selfish. And the only thing that we could try is to be a little selfless, do that little tiny grain each and every day. And once again, just do our best day by day. And it's not about perfection. It's recognizing when we are doing something that isn't so great, or when we are going into a mental pattern that is that could be detrimental to our mental health, but also the body, as we receive signals of discomfort and stress via the quality of our thoughts and frequencies of the thoughts. So once we are able to recognize these mental modifications and filters, we then are able to do that self-study, to then practice, let's say, ahimsa, non-harm, non-violence. But that's also not yelling at someone, not degrading someone verbally or hitting someone physically, non-killing, and so forth. But that also starts from within. It's the way that we speak to ourselves. It's the judgment and the criticism, and it's that voice that doesn't stop. And when we're able to calm that down or recognize it, then we're able to start to switch these detrimental and demoting patterns into something that is more helpful and beneficial for our own self in the long run. As you already know, the way that we feel within, many times it can be expressed to others verbally, or even in our posture or the way that we hold ourselves in certain situations. Hurt people hurt others. Reactive people will react. So taking time to breathe, to be more mindful and present in conversations or the way that we are acting or reacting is very important.
I completely agree and have learned a lot from you about that. So, on another note, one thing that I want to talk to you about is embodiment especially when it comes to, I feel like, your feminine energy. I feel like that is another strength of yours, or something that is like visible through your dancing, through just, everything, through your dress. So can we talk a little bit about that and feminine energy, or someone who's maybe looking to tap into that a little bit more, and give us any little clues or hints that we can tap into that within ourselves?
Thank you. I like this topic, embracing both the masculine and feminine energies within us. I tap into the feminine energy via dance, especially more sensual dances. And I really enjoy belly dancing and dancing in general. I love dancing, but I feel like I tap into that energy with more ease when I get to do it creatively and ecstatic, something that is more organic as opposed to choreography. Choreography, even though it's dancing, I would feel like I'm tapping a little bit more into my masculine energy, because I lean towards more perfectionism when it comes to getting the right steps or
Mhm.
doing something in the manner that I want it to be done. So it becomes more executive, like dun dun dun.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I could never like even remember what they were telling me sometimes in dance class. You're following along, and I'd be like, crap, it's easy, or I find it more easy as well to like just allow the music to guide you in a way. But so yeah.
Yes, exactly. So definitely letting the music and just dancing in my room or vibing or singing. These are ways to tap into my feminine. Embracing my sexuality. I feel growing up around beautifully traditional and religious family members, or going to church when I was younger, or religious institutes, because I always had the option of picking and choosing from my parents, because everyone, my grandmother, my mother, my father, they all observed different religions. So being able to grow up in an environment in which I had a flavor of each allowed me to choose, allowed me the choice of where I wanted to dive deeper in. But growing up in traditional and religious environments, I feel like sexuality, especially for the woman, or self exploration, is very taboo, and it's something that can be frowned upon, or having sexual interaction before marriage and things like that can be looked down upon.
And
And
cause a lot of shame and a lot of fear, and a lot like with religion, especially like Catholicism too. Yeah.
yes, it does. There is a lot of
Judgment.
judgment, thank you, towards that. And maybe things are shifting, but I felt that judgment. And in high school, I was very expressive. As I mentioned before, I went to a private school in Dominican Republic in which we had a uniform, and we had to look and be a certain way. And I look back on it now and I'm like, yes, like everyone's very mindful of their appearance, and that is very important. However, I just felt like being creative and wanting to express myself, I didn't want to be in a box. And that was my mentality back in the day. And now I look back, I'm like, I like uniforms. But this was in a time where I just wanted to be different or feel different. And the way
Mhm.
that I expressed myself was by getting tattoos and piercings and all these things. So this was a way of expression. And I used to color my hair all the time as well. Doing that was a way of like, okay, maybe I can't control the things that I wear to school or whatnot, but I can control what I can put on my body. And then when it came time to hide it, cool, just like put my hair down or whatever it was.
Mhm.
But being able to express myself that way was very
Important to you, or
important to me.
yeah.
Aside from that, going back to femininity, I felt very strong in my feminine when I did have the choice. Something that I still to this day have trouble with is not having a choice or someone choosing for me or dictating what I can or can't do. And of course, I know it's important if you have an employer and so forth. Yes, it could follow rules and regulations. I actually love that. I love rules and regulations. And I know it sounds like such a juxtaposition. It's just something within me that I like more of a collaboration while still maintaining some of the rules. I like things to be bent in a way. It doesn't have to be broken, but there has to be some leeway for to be able to maneuver or change. And tapping into my feminine is having that choice and being in a place where they want you to be covered and all these things. I just want to be nude. I just want to be naked. I think the body is so beautiful, and it could be painted, it can be photographed in such beautiful ways. And I feel like pleasure is also something so beneficial. And if moving on to sex now, if you don't explore
No.
yourself and know your wants, your desires, what makes you happy, or what your boundaries are, that like that's a strong no, we're not going there.
Mhm.
How can you communicate that to someone else? I mean, with that communication, you are able to have a more happier and inclusive sex life. But if you're not aware of your strong boundaries, or when something just doesn't feel right, how to say or how to express yourself in a way like, oh no, I like this. Because that's another thing. As females, or just speaking for myself, maybe, I had a time where I would just have my partner do something that is pleasurable for them, but it doesn't feel so great for me. So I would just be like, all right, like as long as you're happy, so forth. But or have them think that they're doing such a great job when they're really not, because I didn't want to hurt their feelings of like, you're not even close, but
Yeah.
okay.
I'm so happy you brought this topic up because this is such a passion of mine, and why I've told you I am so interested in becoming a sexologist and sex educator, because I think, like you mentioned, as women, let's get into this now, because I just interviewed a sexologist and we were talking about how, we learn how to have sex from porn, or men do a lot of them. And if you're not confident enough in your own body and exploring yourself and figuring out and learning what feels good to you, then yes, you cannot communicate that with your partner. And then it's easy for women to not express themselves in that way sexually. I mean, we can go into many different reasons why, like socially, culturally, and throughout history, the archetypes that have been given to women, for having sexual desires or wanting to seek pleasure and give pleasure as well. So, or only to give pleasure being a taboo to want to express themselves in a certain way, to be judged by others. But yeah, I think not only does this, finding out what you like and being confident enough to express that and communicate that, especially with an intimate partner, it's not just about that. It carries over into other areas of your life, right? If you feel confident on that level, which is so vulnerable and on such an intimate level with somebody, like imagine what you can do out in the world and stick up for yourself in your career and go after things that you want. So yeah, let's hear more about that from you, and just how getting there and overcoming that doubt that you felt, or being so willing to almost sacrifice your own pleasure and not speak up for yourself, because I think so many women are still in that place and struggle with that all the time. Sex is very mental for them, and it's all in their head, and they're worrying like, oh, do I look fat? The lights are, I don't want the lights on, all the things that we as women do. Oh, well, he likes it. I'm just gonna like fake it and pretend I'm enjoying this when you're really not. Let's.
Yes, or even fake an orgasm just
Mhm.
for their pleasure or for them to be satisfied,
Ego.
or maybe speaking from experience, I'm a people pleaser. I don't want anyone to feel bad, and for a long time I felt like, oh my gosh, this is taking too long. Let me just fake it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want him to
You
have to
mentioned
keep doing this.
the majority of the time you're in your mind like, oh, is it taking too long? Oh my gosh. There are so many things that could happen. And once you have that, not only self exploration, but being more confident in how I'm trying to think, because there is an area of performance, like you mentioned, that we have to look a certain way due to maybe pornography or what we see. And this is such a staged
Hmm.
video or performance. It's a performance.
Yeah.
And it just, the expectations for those that maybe, okay, I'll just go back because I'll speak just for myself. I, my first viewing of sex wasn't even in a movie or anything like that. It was at the time of where we had AOL and internet, and this first started where you had to connect, and it sounds like,
Yeah.
so I just ventured off into chats, and then I ventured off into exploring and doing what kids do, just finding that site, which is inappropriate for a younger person, but here you are and you're curious. And that was my first introduction to something like that. And then after watching this and seeing what adults did and what was expected, it had an imprint in what was expected of me as a female, and how I had to sound, what I had to say, what I had to look like in certain positions, or what were the positions. So there is an area of maybe like learning, but also that learning had to be unlearned because I don't have to look anything like that in any angles. If anything, I should find different angles that feel best for both of us. And since it's a collaboration and it's more about feeling and that genuine connection as opposed to doing something for the masturbation of it. For me, sex is more about that connection that you have with someone and wanting to be intimate with them as opposed to something that we do for just ejaculation and release and orgasm. As a female, I feel like I can't just have a one night stand with someone. I would just get too attached. So,
Yeah, same, same, I'm right there with you. Like, we're in love now, right? Like, we're
yeah,
together. Same, same.
there has to be definitely a level of comfort. And that's how I think being expressive and having that orgasm, you have to be comfortable with that person 100%. Yeah. So it's an interesting topic. And again, I just feel like it starts with that self exploration. And then from there, having confidence. And then from there, trust and communication. And then from there, just working on it and having the best sex life after that. And having a partner. I have a partner, my significant other, for 9 years now. And I feel like each and every year it just gets better and better and better. Like, thank goodness, thank the universe, God. And it's something that we continue to work on. And it is a commitment to stay with each other. And I will not say that we have grown together like side by side all this time. No, we definitely have our ebbs and flows and phases, ups and downs, which is a part of any relationship. But the beauty of the relationship comes when I go out, for example, and there's so many beautiful people in the room, so many people from around the world, and there's not one person that I'm like, damn, like, I wonder how it would be like to be with them. I just feel like I have the best person in the world, and I'm so content and happy with the person that I love and chose. And not only does it get better, but our communication gets better and deeper. Because after a while, like, we could start over with someone and we could have so much to talk about. And we love sharing about ourselves. It's something that is human nature. And we also enjoy listening about someone that we're attracted to or, can see potential with. But after a while, the conversation becomes dull. With my partner, we both have passions in different things. He loves politics, he loves his own thing, and he's really interested in yoga as well. But I also have my own interests, and being able to connect each other's interests or listen to each other is just a beautiful thing. And after growing together through these flows, the relationship becomes stronger. For me, I just don't see myself with anyone else. I can acknowledge, and we could both acknowledge beautiful people when we do see them,
Mhm.
and we could just be like, all right. But we choose each other, not only for the physicality, we choose each other for that we have a wonderful day. And the first person that we want to call and share it with is with each other. That's like
Yeah.
something that comes to mind.
I'm so happy you were talking about this because I just think for me, still being single, I think you and Evan really give, like, I don't want to say hope, but I love seeing you guys together. And Evan was in our yoga training as well. And it was just really nice to see him supporting you as well. And, um, I just look at you guys and I'm like, you know what? I want my person like that, like to be able to share my life with on so many levels. And you, like you said, you guys have your own things, but you still have that solid connection. And he told us about when you guys met, and such a, it's such a great story. And I love it. I love you guys together. And I love hearing that, like you said, not relationships aren't easy. And I think today people are so willing to just give up and look for the next thing to keep their attention. So when people work on staying together to create a life together, knowing that you're going to have to work through times that, like, you might be more distant at times, you're not always going to be perfectly in sync always, but hearing about two people that are doing this and walking through life that way is, it's very inspiring to me, and I'm sure other people as well, because even, friends of mine that are married or in partnerships, it does get boring, and there's a choice that people can make, whether you have kids or not, to work on the relationship between you and your partner. And I think it's so important to always value that. And I'm so happy to hear you share your experience, because I see people that don't choose that, and then it's kind of just like two roommates living together and secretly hating each other but loving each other enough to stay together. Yeah, I like your relationship. So thank you for sharing.
It's a very complex subject, as we learned in the practice. Sometimes we do need to practice surrendering and letting go and knowing when to do that. And that is one of the most hardest things that we could ever do. And I myself, before Evan, I have 100% stayed in a relationship just for trying to push through, even though I wasn't content. And then there came a time where I had to face it and think, is this the life that I want to continue with? Even though he said, yeah, I'm going to marry you in 5 years, or, all these promises and so forth. I just wasn't content with it. And there came a point where enough is enough. And being able to recognize that, and as a people pleaser or former people pleaser and recovering perfectionist, it's a lot that we may put upon ourselves. And if something doesn't work out, maybe we consider it as failure or whatever it may be. But these are all learning experiences and learning to maneuver with more grace and compassion towards ourselves.
Lovely. Before we wrap up, I do want to just talk about you teaching and being involved with, you know, if we can go there with Allo, and just, you know, you being having classes online and offering that way. I know you do allow people to join in online at space often, or is that just kind of here and there?
So
What do
for
you want to share about that?
we have some workshops, only workshops that may be available online. And we would disclose that via our Instagram and website or the Mind Body app when the workshop is available online. And people can sign up from all over the world as long as the timing is appropriate for them and they can join live. We don't do class recordings, just for the privacy of those that are attending the class. Aside from that, I have classes online on Allo Moves, which is the application that they have for fitness. And they have all types of fitness on there, including yoga, Pilates, HIIT, interval training, Tabata, and so forth. So it's a great app in which you could go and find anything that is that you're searching for, and that's Allo Moves. I do have some complimentary classes on YouTube, and there you could search for my name, Naya Rappaport, and you could see some of the classes that I've made. Yeah. So if you want something more as an in-person experience, come visit South Florida, come to the studio, or in the future, I don't know when my next retreat will be, but probably 2025, 2026, come on a yoga retreat with me.
Wonderful. And I do want to say something about your teaching, which I find is very and unique to you and just the many aspects of you. I think it's a multi-sensuous experience, if you will, with the way that you use like smells, the way, you know, not just the class itself, with closing our eyes sometimes, with the lights that you use in your studio. I've never been to a yoga class where the full on experience of it, you know, all the little details and just how you theme your classes as well, was something I just found really unique and awesome. So, yeah, if you guys are in the South Florida area, it is so worth it to go take a class at Space Unknown in Delray with Naya and the other teachers there, because, yeah, you just have a really unique style. That's so cool. One more thing. Oh, I can't remember, but we've shared a lot. So thank you for all that you shared, Naya. Is there anything else before we wrap up that you wanted to touch on, or that you can think of that you want to share?
No, I think we covered what was meant to be covered.
Yes,
um,
exactly.
if there's anything else, I would say just thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for being yourself, for doing this and sharing your love and communication skills with the world. I am so excited for your journey as a sexologist. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to share more with you. Something that I utilized the past few years is called Beducated. And I
Mm.
think that you would enjoy the website. It's sexual education in a more mindful, better way than how they do it in high school.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really, any resources I like to share. So thank you for mentioning that, guys. Go check it out. And then one more thing that I know that we share in common, Naya, is our love of reading these fiction fantasy books that I know you've been posting about so much recently. I'm currently reading, which is embarrassing for me to admit that I spend my free time right now reading so much, but though reading like what is it? Thorn of Glass. Have you read those yet?
Yeah, I read Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass. So, so good. I love that one. Has zero spice, but I'm so in for the fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. And then if anyone wants to find you or get in touch with you, Naya, where can they find you online, on social? Just give out your links?
Yes, my name, Naya, last name Rappaport. And you can find me that way on Google. My website is also nayarappaport.com or naidavp.com. Instagram, TikTok, I'm on these social pages. Other than that, yes, you could definitely find me at the studio. I spend the majority of my time there, as well as traveling to hopefully teach more workshops and lead retreats later in the future. I'm taking a little hiatus and spending a little more time for myself starting September. But after that, I'll take a few months and go back in the game.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Naya. I'm so happy we got to spend time together today and you shared a lot of really great knowledge. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for those that are taking the time to listen and watch. Blessings.
Perfect.